Leading Double Lives. On this book talk, we have 3 YA stories from across the globe about young women who refuse to be boxed in by societal demands. These 3 young heroines step out to find a place of their own under the cover of secrecy. Leading high-stakes double lives, these are no damsels in distress. So who are these risk takers? Camila Hassan from Jamili Said Mendez's Furia. Hazel Sennett from Anatomy, a Love Story by Dana Schwartz. And Angeline Bully's Donis Fontaine from The Firekeeper's Daughter. Each of these stories is set in a region with rich cultural representations and local dialects that are central to the storytelling. And all 3 of these audio performances are outstanding and really do provide an additional layer of enjoyment as a companion to it. Our first stop is Rosario, Argentina, where football is life and the women's movement is heated in Furia by Jamili Said Mendez, with the audiobook performed by Sol Madaragia. By day, 17-year-old Camila lives a stubborn but dutiful life as the obedient daughter in the shadow of her semi-pro soccer-playing brother, Pablo. But in secret, she unleashes the fury when she's on the soccer field, leading her unsanctioned women's team toward the South American Women's Tournament and a chance for her to go pro. She grew up playing soccer with Pablo and his best friend, who is also her first love, Diego. But talent and opportunity put distance between those 3. When she was 12 years old, her father made it crystal clear that soccer was for men and she was not allowed to play. There were no professional teams for women in Argentina at this time anyway, and no one at home wanted anything for her future besides her mother, who wanted her to go to med school, and her father, who wanted her to marry for money. But that did not stop her from lacing up her brother's hand-me-down cleats when no one was looking. While Pablo basks in the glory of his local stardom and Diego blows through town and outshines them all from his new international life with a pro team in Italy, Camila is celebrated as La Furia when she leads her team to win the local championship with her raw talent. That's when things get really complicated. Juggling a secret life becomes more difficult and more dangerous with the political situation in her hometown and under the roof of her abusive father. When Diego's paparazzi cameras shine a light on her and their possible rekindling relationship, it becomes even harder for Camila to hide. Diego's presence is, of course, intoxicating to her as he's her first love, and his money and fame are irresistible to her father. But drawing on the strength of her female ancestors and the fire that she sees in a young girl named Karen, who she tutors, Camila finds her own way to freedom. Next, we go back in time to the Gothic castles and foggy cemeteries of Edinburgh, Scotland in 1817 for Dana Schwartz's mystery and medical fiction Anatomy, a Love Story. The audiobook is performed by Mahari Morrison. When 17-year-old Hazel's secret love affair with medical science, along with her perseverance in the face of constraining societal norms, really make this 17-year-old heroine another strong role model to root for. She's pre-engaged to her stuffy cousin. She's the last in line behind her 7-year-old brother for attention. She escapes her. They should be lonely, but she likes the solitude, but that does seem old and drafty and echoey. So she escapes the echoey halls of Hawthornden Castle, where she lives, for science experiments and books on anatomy and modern disease. As a daughter of the captain of the Royal Navy, Hazel, like other young women of her social circle, is expected to marry well and take on the title of lady. But her father also indulged her love of books and her curiosity and her love of learning about the natural world as she was growing up. And for as long as she could remember, Hazel had wanted to be a surgeon. Now, surgery was a relatively new practice in the 1800s, and those who practiced it were viewed as butchers. In fact, her fiance cousin says that it is the field for men with no money and no status, which is very different from today. But the human body fascinates her, and infectious disease is on the rise. Her older brother George actually died of something that was going around. Her father's off seeing over Napoleon's prison cell, and her mother has taken her little brother away to escape this Roman fever. So Hazel lies to her mother about being too sick to travel and disguises herself as her deceased older brother so that she can enroll in classes with the Royal Anatomist Society and prepare for the physician's examination on her own. She's eventually kicked out of medical classes for being found out to be a woman. And she ends up working with this love-struck resurrection man who's essentially a grave robber for science, named Jack Kerr, with whom she dangerously exhumes her own cadavers when she's no longer allowed to attend the lectures or hands-on practice. And she secretly helps sick people in her own home when they would be forced to seek medical attention in a filthy, overcrowded, what was called a poor hospital, where most people would die gruesome deaths anyway. She uncovers multiple disfiguring procedures conducted on powerless, unconsenting donors, and danger lurks around every corner as Hazel finds her way in a man's world and learns that anatomy, though it was her first true love, may not be her one and only love. Our last stop on this YA book tour through double lives is in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, just across the water from Ontario, Canada, in the early 2000s for Firekeeper's Daughter by Angeline Bully, with the audiobook performance narrated by Isabella Starr LeBlanc. Recent high school graduate and local hockey star Donis Fontaine gets pulled into a heart-pounding, widespread methamphetamine investigation with the FBI as an undercover informant. As the story unfolds, she finds out that not only is she keeping a whole bunch of secrets, no one is who they seem. Donis's identity literally hangs in the balance throughout this story. Her indigenous community is in the throes of this growing methamphetamine epidemic, and her tribal enrollment, which was not granted to her at birth due to her father's absence from the birth certificate, because of her grandmother's family. It's very complicated. This all comes into play, but not exactly in the way that she would like it to have been initiated. She also suffers unbearable loss, and in the face of impossible circumstances, keeps her cool. All of this while grappling with the duality of her identity, trying to protect the sacred traditions of her elders, and maintaining the cover of the federal agents who are working this case. This book is a thriller wrapped in a mystery thrust into Indigenous Ojibwe culture. Listening to the audiobook as a companion truly does add a layer of engagement, particularly during the performances of the cadence that's lent to the dialogue of the Ojibwe elders. Keep the secret, live the lie, earn your truth.